Hey everybody, welcome to Wednesday. First of all, Boss Fight premieres tomorrow. I'm going to try to do the premiere thing at 11 tomorrow. Hopefully it'll work. Never done this before. We'll see. I don't quite know how it works. But yeah, 11 tomorrow. And then patrons and Kickstarter backers. Check your notifications in your email or log in and check it out. There'll be a notice about a Zoom party on Friday night for backers of Boss Fight. Did a little informal poll of the patrons, said, do you want a preview of the show or do you want something after the fact where it's like answering questions and telling funny stories about the making of it? And hands down, the kind of after party sort of idea online was the more popular one. So check however you get updates from Patreon or from Kickstarter for information on that. If you want to be a part of these things going forward, because every episode's going to have them, help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK. I'm so impressed with myself making those After Effects graphics. But as promised today, I'm talking about who you think are male and female characters you either like or, think are positive role models or whatever. And as I suspected would be the case, the reasons people gave are way more interesting to me than the characters they picked. Though there's a lot of characters that I, completely agree with wholeheartedly. But the reasons were really, really interesting. Now, some of the reasons I don't want to say here because they are pretty major spoilers. And, I'm all for promoting older games like Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI and all that stuff. So I'd rather not put the spoilers here. And if people just like the games based on there were a lot of Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI supporters in comments, which makes me happy because those games, I thought they were great games for the time. But for whatever reason, as multiple people pointed out, Final Fantasy VII became the big Final Fantasy game that everybody talks about. And, I think I actually enjoy. It's been ages since I played Final Fantasy V and Final Fantasy VI. But my favorite Final Fantasy games are probably 3, 5, and 6. And I can't tell you why. It may just have been, right game for the right time in my life. But, the characters were good as well. And it always sort of amazes me in these eras where, we didn't have fully voiced games and they were just text and the graphics weren't where they are right now. And these characters still manage to really move us and touch us. That's an achievement. And I love doing stuff like this because people it's like, oh yeah, that was good. And oh yeah, that was good too. And oh, that's an interesting perspective on the character. So let me go through the list. Because there was quite a bit. Now, the common themes of why people liked characters seem to mostly be like loyalty, intelligence, standing up for what's right, and getting through adversity. Those seem to be the things that if people liked a character, it was because one of those reasons. There were anomalies and there were exceptions to that, and I'll get to that. But I'm doing general themes first. I'm a systemic thinker. I have to organize. I thought this is going to be an easy video. People do the work for me, and then I realized, oh man, I have to collate the comments. So if you commented after about 2 or 3 o'clock yesterday, you weren't included in this because I had to make the video. And it wasn't that I made the video before that. I made the video right before I did Twitch, but I had to go through everybody's comments and sort and organize. But Final Fantasy VI, definitely. Chrono Trigger got mentioned a lot. Metal Gear Solid got mentioned a lot. And I just think, Kojima's games in general have very, very complex characterizations of characters. And I think that's part of the reason that they are so controversial. The man makes art. I say the guy's the David Cronenberg of Japan for a reason, because of that sort of psychological stuff that can hit you really hard. I'm like open about the fact that I actually find the Metal Gear Solid games very disturbing, and they're excellent and they're well made, and that's why they hit me so hard. I'd probably be better now going back and playing them, but like it's one of the most, at the gut, it gets PTSD. And not in that, oh, they make a little ringing sound thing and the person's kind of over it by the end of the TV episode, like they do. Though All Rise had an ongoing storyline that wasn't bad, but it was still that, ringing of the ears, the shaking of the hands, the really dramatic thing, and it's kind of eye rolling. They're trying to induce sympathy in the audience instead of real talk about what it is actually like. Metal Gear just goes there, man. And, when I tried to play Metal Gear 3, when I tried to play Metal Gear 5, just too close to it. I keep trying. That's why I was so excited about Death Stranding, is it doesn't handle it in the same way. Still a major theme, but really well done. And I don't think, people who love Kojima love Kojima. Other people are like, he's so overrated, and personally I don't think they get what he's doing, and that's art, right? Other ones that got multiple votes, Final Fantasy VII, of course, Samus Aran in Metroid, Bayonetta, of course, Lara Croft, a lot of votes for Lara, no real surprise. Pre-reboot Lara, multiple people went very clearly, pre-reboot, rebooted character, not as good. And I find that so interesting because Lara Croft is one of these characters that I think didn't turn out the way, or players didn't respond to her the way that the people making the games wanted them to. And I think that was for the better. They wanted to instill this protective instinct. For people who don't know, female protagonists have alien syndrome. The movie Alien. It is well known in any film school. Anybody who wants to be a filmmaker knows that Ripley in Alien was there because the idea was that the audience would feel more fear for a female character. They were using that sort of naturally protective instinct that people have for women more than men. They were basically leveraging benevolent sexism. And that's what they tried to do with Lara Croft as well. It didn't work. First of all, the ragdoll deaths in the original games were hilarious. Not gonna lie, there's one particular rock in the original Tomb Raider game over like a waterfall, and the way she just bounces off that and like ragdolls into the water is just hilarious in that sport goofy like kind of way. I actually made that sound. Well, I made her jump off. But the thing that they miss, and this is why I'm so... Games aren't movies, games aren't TV shows, games are games. Treat them like games, please. Game theory, not film theory, game theory. Like, yes, you have your cutscenes, but you have to understand it as a game first so that your cutscenes will inform the game instead of creating this weird dissonance. And Lara Croft is an example of people don't want to have to protect Lara Croft. Protecting Lara Croft misses the point. Lara Croft is a badass. She can protect herself. You play as Lara Croft because she is better than you. And she's selfish and she's self-serving. And it's not that she's hateful for people. You don't see female Byronic heroes. And that's why she's amazing. But you don't feel protective towards Byronic heroes either. They're mad, bad, and dangerous to know. And so people just got so hung up on Lara Croft's gender when they're making Tomb Raider games, they miss the fact that gamers are beyond them in that way and see Lara Croft as Lara Croft. And they don't want her to be just a female character. She's Lara Croft, and they like her for who Lara Croft is. And I think, quite frankly, if Core, oh God, Crystal Dynamics and Square, brain fart there. Core hasn't been making Tomb Raider games in ages. But if they want to keep people there, you're gonna have to grow up Lara. Like, old Lara was just objectively a better, more original character than rebooted Lara was. But going on, I mentioned Chrono Trigger, right? Yeah, Metal Gear, yeah. Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice got quite a few votes. Great game if you haven't played it. And the nice thing about it is it's short. It's something you can blow through. You know, if you play solid for a day, you can blow through it in a day. You can definitely blow through it in a weekend. The one that I was kind of tickled by was Sly Cooper. Multiple people brought up Sly Cooper. And that's one of those game franchises. I don't know what happened. That game franchise was so good. And I think with the improvements to gameplay that have been achieved since Sly Cooper was like, that PS2 era of gaming, I think a new Sly Cooper game would freaking kill. And I don't know why they haven't done another Sly Cooper game, because, oh my God, those games were so good. Now those are the, shut up, Facebook. I hate notifications. Give me a minute. So those are the games that got multiple votes. Now and I'm surprised some of these didn't get more votes. I think some games just have such massive scale that people forget the individual components of them, and that's cool. But the individual characters that people like, that only one person that I saw mentioned that I thought were interesting, but the first one I'm like, huh? Yeah, okay. I kind of like this character too. I just didn't think of it. Ishina Shina. Ashina, yeah, from Sekiro. You know the old guy that you bring the monkey booze to? Yeah, it's confident, straightforward, honest. Honest is a big one too. I found that interesting. Demi from Cloud Built was that person's female pick. Prince of Persia, the arc of growing out of his privileged macho entitlement, and learning to value Farah as an ally and a person. Somebody mentioned Kat and Halsey from Halo Reach. And man, I wish they had introduced those other Halo characters so much earlier, because my big issue with Reach was that I couldn't get attached to any of the characters because it telegraphed so heavily what was going to befall them. And so I'm like, not getting attached, not going to get, but there were some good characters in Reach. The Bungie had given up at that point, though, which is kind of like what they're doing with Destiny right now. But I'll move on. The main character from Ultima 4, Lost Odyssey was mentioned, Mithra from Xenoblade 2, Link from the Zelda series. The thing I find so interesting about Link is he's not like a big hulking guy, and people are like, games are just male power fantasy. It's like Link is deliberately a noodle. I mean, that's why I named my cat Link, because he has these great big eyes and he's all like stringy, and it's easy to be brave when you're a big hulking brute, but when you're little and noodly, it's harder, and that's why I love Link. One person made a really interesting comment about why Princess Peach is a great role model, and I read it and I'm like, you go, like, listen to this, okay? How couldn't you admire a woman whose whole life is suffering bad things, who keeps on being kind and gentle? She's powerful enough to be the single visible sovereign of a kingdom, but humble enough to befriend a blue-collar worker. Well done for seeing Princess Peach that way. Princess Peach is so maligned. This person's male pick was Raziel from Legacy of Kain. There were a lot of spoilers in the explanation, so read the comments if you want to see why. April from The Longest Journey. I'm really surprised more people didn't bring that up, but maybe it's been too long. Phoenix Wright, Ace Detective. I just saw another one. Ace Attorney, Ace Detective. Ace Attorney, Phoenix Wright. Got 2 mentions. That one was cool, and the justification one person gave, I'm jumping around here, the Ace Attorney games stand for commentary on the Japanese legal system being seen as just railroading people into jail. So Phoenix Wright is a man facing insurmountable odds, opponents, and his own missteps to stand up for his principles and find the truth. I thought that was cool. I love seeing what people like bring to the table with their interpretations of games. And the explanation for why somebody found Geralt of Rivia their favorite male role model, I thought it was very interesting. And I before I read this, I agree wholeheartedly. But you have to take the games as a trilogy. And frankly, I actually think the original Witcher game and then Witcher 3 show this arc the best. 2, you guys know I didn't like 2. I thought it was messy. It did some things very, very cool, but it was messy. So with Geralt of Rivia, this is the commenters. I'm not reading names because, like, just reasons. Because I think a lot of people say the same things, and I don't want to single one person out when people said multiple things, but this is the most believable story I've ever seen in a game and maybe anywhere, of a man who's been a playboy bachelor looking at his life and deciding maybe that's not what he wants anymore. He's not depicted as a man-child the world is forcing to grow up, and his previous lifestyle of playing the field and having his fun isn't vilified or invalidated. Is just a man making a very healthy transition from one stage of his life to another, and from what masculinity means to a young man to what it means to a man getting older and looking at his legacy. And I thought that was a really, really good summary. I really liked that character. And obviously that only happens with certain endings. It's, you know, it's up to the player whether you're going to evolve Geralt that way. But the fact that it's possible, and I do think like the stages of life for men are not as like hammered out as the stages of life for women, which is kind of interesting. Because with women, we have maiden, matriarch, crone, right? You have sort of these phases of life. With men, you basically have young man, old and busted, right? And a lot of the older men in fiction are kings, scholars, and then evil wizards. And evil wizards could also be sorted into the scholars thing, right? They're often seen as like broken down or bitter, and yeah, it's almost like we need another one of those sort of in between phases for men, instead of these man-child narratives that we get where he falls in love with a woman and grows up. And I did like the fact that with the Witcher stories, and this is in the books, so there is an element in the source material. It wasn't an adult woman that made Geralt begin to start evolving. It was his relationship with Ciri, which how that comes about is radically different in the Netflix show than in books, but there you have it. And I think that's a truism that I think a lot of women don't like, that men need to feel paternal towards women, some men anyway, before they'll start seeing adult women as whole people. But unfortunately, based on the number of game devs who all of a sudden had a daughter and suddenly, oh, women are everything. Unfortunately, this is kind of a structural problem in society. I think it does have something to do with socialization, but I mean, adolescent male development is a wonky thing, and I'm a big believer that part of the point of high school is that you just contain little monsters, aka teenagers, until they're old enough to sort of partially go out into the world and not completely harm themselves and others. It seems like more and more we're kicking kids loose too young. There's no intermediary stage between child not allowed to do anything and adults, with like all the binge drinking culture on college campuses that ensues from not being under your parents' immediate supervision every day. It's not fun for anybody involved. I'll just move on from there. Interesting, thought-provoking. The same person said BJ Blazkowicz, I think I said that right, from the Wolfenstein games. and the reason was basically the idea, this commenter found it very personal. Their family fled the Nazis, obviously, like ancestors, not them. But they said, I didn't experience myself, but I grew up with a sense that something had been taken from us, and BJ gave me the means of taking that power back, of at least in a computerized effigy fighting the thing I felt wronged by. Even though I was born long after it was gone in the real world, I understand the idea of representation because of him. And a lot of people probably might mock that because there's this tendency to be assholes when people share something personal. But I think that's hitting the nail on the head of the role of representation in games, why it matters, and why people keep making the wrong arguments in favor of representation. This whole thing about, it cultivates opinions. It cultivates, these mass scale mind control arguments, which just, science doesn't back this up. It's not the case. What games can do is give you that sort of effigy is a good word. Computerized effigies to work shit out, but that's a dialogue with yourself. And that is the power I think that video games have that linear media doesn't. Video games can facilitate a dialogue with the self. And that's why I really think the big OMG moment in a game should come midpoint so that you have the time to chew on it while you're playing the games. I love those moments in games where like something happens and you're like, walking around afterwards, you're playing the game, but you're just chewing on it. Like, what does it mean? I don't know. I don't know if I like this. Maybe I do. Maybe I don't. When all the things, when the big reveal comes at the end, the way movies do, it doesn't give you the sense to let it breathe the same way. So I thought that was very cool. That's something I'd love to understand. I'd love to explore that good argument for representation instead of the crappy ones we keep getting of like harm principles as opposed to sort of dialogue with the self. You can only have a dialogue with yourself through a video game if you see yourself in the video game character, and you can't always predict what characters are going to give you that voyage of self-discovery. For me, it was Kratos. Everybody looks at me weird. I freaking love Kratos, man. Dude gets me. Jaina Proudmoore from World of Warcraft. She actually started in Warcraft 3. Jaina is the anti-bimbo. She is, or was before she got social justice, a busty bare midriff blonde who the fan base is jokingly meaning a sex goddess, but who's also principally defined by her intelligence. I found that intelligent women, and a love for intelligent women, kept coming up in these comments, which I found very interesting. Heavy Rain, I think multiple people have actually met. Heavy Rain, I'm surprised how much I liked that game. And people crap on games like that, and that game in particular. Some people have an issue with the developer, but for what it did, it was really good. From Final Fantasy X. This one I had to think about. Okay. Catalina from GTA 3, contrasted with Maria from the same game. GTA 3 is still my favorite Grand Theft Auto game. I still think it was super flawed, but I can see the point there. Cat Lady, the protagonist in Cat Lady, Susan, very realistic. The person said she's depressed. Transistor, I still haven't played that game. I own it and still haven't played it. Reminder to play it. Clementine from The Walking Dead. Deacon St. John from Days Gone. I gotta play that game. I forgot all about it. Persona 4, KOTOR 2, Fallout New Vegas, Rebecca Chambers from Resident Evil 0, Princess Zelda from Breath of the Wild, Breath of the Wild Zelda and Ocarina of Time Zelda get no love. They get lumped into this damsel in distress thing. Princess Zelda is not a damsel in distress. She is not waiting around for Link to rescue her. Link is the reinforcements in the Legend of Zelda games. The whole idea is nobody can defeat Ganon or whoever the villain is in the game on their own, and it drives me crazy that people keep missing that. Professor Layton, I love that Professor Layton made it on this viz because he's so different. But I love Professor Layton. Layton's Apprentice Strikes Again. I forgot that guy's name, but I love those games. Bowser was one. If you look at one person said, if you look over the many stories in Nintendo promotional materials, Bowser's actually a really sweet dad to Bowser Jr. I can't argue with that. Vanquished, Sub-Zero came up. He as the disciplined man of honor version that they made him into. Setsuka and Baiken, Johnny from Guilty Gear, Ken from Street Fighter, again, the Pretty Boy to Family Man arc, Estelle Bright from Trails in the Sky, and it goes on and on and on. Joseph Oda from The Evil Within made me chuckle, but then I had to agree. Cynthia from Pokemon, Bianca from Pokemon Black and White, Kat from Gravity Rush, characters in Tyranny, I still gotta play that too. Alice from American Mickey's Alice Madder Returns, Paladin Dance from Fallout 4. It just goes on and on and on. I'm sure there are way more comments by the time I get to that. So, thank you for this. This was an interesting experiment. I would like to do this again. I enjoyed it. So, until then, boss fight tomorrow. Remember, help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/SiennaK if you want to take part in the online after party for boss fight. Thanks for watching.